All right, friends, welcome back to the podcast. We're 2 days away from Valentine's Day, the day of love.
What are we going to do? Actually, I have thoughts.
Do you? You haven't told me. What are they? Tell me. No one's listening here.
I wanted to do a family dinner.
How romantic.
I know. Well, I mean, we could do something, you and I, another time. But
I thought you were going to say make out.
Anyways, that's my thought.
All right. Well,
we always do a family dinner. But
my hopes for a one-on-one time on a bed of roses has been dashed into thin air.
Whoa,
I just
TMI.
see Clover and Daisy fighting and Lennox clamoring and then I'm going to fall asleep like at 8:30. It seems like my plan for a hot and sexy Valentine's Day just went up in smoke. You said the family, and I thought to myself, what? That's not the Valentine's Day I signed up for. But fine, have it your way. The family will come. We'll go to McDonald's and we'll have a family night. That's great. Okay.
Heart-shaped hamburger.
Today on the podcast, we're about to have a conversation with Sean Curran.
Oh, man.
Music leader, worship leader. If you know worship pastor, worship leader, someone who loves ministry through music, send this episode to him. It's really good stuff. He talks about a lot of different things, but it's fantastic.
It's going to be great. Before we jump into this wonderful conversation, I just wanted to remind you to enter into the Blessed Are the Spiraling Nashville trip giveaway.
Goodness gracious.
You just have to pre-order Blessed Are the Spiraling, which you need to. I can't wait for this project to come out.
Exciting.
And for the world to meet it, because it's going to be incredible. But make sure you sign up for that.
And then once you
giveaway.
Buy the book, you go to levilusko.com, you'll put your receipt. Every copy of the book you buy counts as
one entry.
Submission. So there's no limit to it. You can buy them for people in your life for gifts and then be entered to win 2 plane tickets, hotel, and then VIP insider access to
the Dove Awards.
The Dove Awards, the 56th annual Dove Awards. It's a fan experience activity, including transportation.
Wow, it sounds fun.
I mean, I'm in. You'll get to hear concerts. There's going to be so much going on. So 2 people will win. Many will enter. We will see what happens. We'll keep you updated. All right, we'll enjoy this conversation with our friend, Sean Curran. All right, well, Sean Curran, welcome to Hey Luskos. We're so glad to have you on the podcast, bro.
Happy to be here.
Long time friend, first time guest on the podcast.
That's true.
Right? I mean, many moons. We've known each other many moons.
We have. You first met me in a different iteration of myself and
Bellarive.
In some ways.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, Bellarive. Sometimes people will say Bellarive, which is, I guess it's fine.
Which feels
call it what you want.
I arrived, Bellarive.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like that. Like it's like selfish, but like Bellarive. What does that mean, Bellarive?
It was basically a street name. In college, which is when the band started, we were all super involved in this church ministry. Beautiful, beautiful time. Honestly, the most unique time in my life in that regard, where it just felt like God just kind of bent down and kissed a time, and it felt so sacred and something so precious. We started writing songs about it, but most of us were all in college, and my house in a lot of ways became like a central place for a lot of the creativity. And we lived off of a street that was spelled that way, and we just kind of liked it. So none of us know how to say it, I guess, but.
Oh, so it was a literal street. It was
a street name, yeah.
When you said street name, my mind somehow went to like a nickname for a drug, like the street name for it.
Like, yeah.
Like it's crystal blue. It's not meth. It's crystal blue. I was like, when you said street name, my mind was like, street name for what? So it's actually a street name.
A street name.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we met there, and then we you might say we reacquainted through passion.
Oh yeah, of course. It's such a beautiful community. I've been thankful for, everything that we do connected to community is the thing that just feels like the lifeblood of it. Goodness. Yeah.
And how many people and not just people who like yourself are day in and day out at Passion City Church and working for Passion, and on the record label as you are, but people that are so far flung and disconnected, you know what I mean? Like there's people that you see at Passion Conference and it's like, oh my gosh. And even just people that are there to be guests and hang out. But it is really like this orbit that sucks you into its gravitational pull. And you don't,
and you're happy to be there. Yeah.
You don't want to get ejected. You're happy to be in the gravity of it all.
Yeah, it's very true.
How did you get connected into Passion?
I mean, so let me think. I can't remember the exact. It was probably 2012 or 2013. We moved up to Atlanta, and the whole Bellarive, that whole band moved up to Atlanta because we were from Florida, and we were doing van and trailer stuff, and
the run and gun, the ghetto touring,
rock and roll, man, and I love it. But it was really hard to get out of the state. And we'd be on these tours that we'd have a lot of dead days. And a lot of our friends and our management and stuff was in Atlanta. So we couldn't make it all the way home. We'd go to Atlanta, spend a couple of days there, started to really kind of like the city, eventually felt like we should move here. So we all moved there, still spent a few more years doing the band. And then when that chapter closed, Natalia and I stayed, and the drummer. And we had just fell in love with the city, wanted to be there. But an interesting thing happened where, when we moved, we were traveling so much that it wasn't till after the band basically ended that we had any time to kind of come up for air and go, wow, we can actually put some roots down and try to go to church and all these things that became so hard. And make some community. So we just started going to Passion. I mean, we were just happily being a part of the larger church for so long. And then I started serving on the worship team, mostly in the kids. Yeah, learning hand motions, man, that's tough stuff. I'll tell you what, I can sing a song all day, but
the Lord told Noah, you're ready to go, yeah.
Yeah, trying to remember the words and learn hand motions. And the kids are brutal. They will tell you when they don't like that song.
Yeah, they're quick to check out. They're like, Father
sing
Abraham. I want Father Abraham.
We're going to teach you a new song. No! But
they want the hits.
Yeah, it was just jumping in on the worship team. And I don't know. I think there was kind of a cool critical moment, I guess, where I was asked to lead worship for a smaller acoustic gathering for just the worship team. There's been different iterations of that, but maybe a couple times a year, every quarter, we would just have a worship time with the team. And they asked me to lead it, and I led a song that I had written. And and Louis ended up being there, and it just sparked a kind of a new part of our relationship.
What was the song?
It was called Worthy of Your Name.
Heard it.
Yeah.
Vaguely familiar with it.
Yeah. And it became, I don't know, it was it was also a cool time in the music creating expression of their journey, where they were exploring a lot of new things. And I don't know, I just got stitched in. I played, so for a number of years they really needed help with the piano player role at Passion is pretty intensive, because you're MDing and you're running tracks, and you're playing piano.
As though playing piano weren't hard enough. All of your fingers must do individual things. Let's just add a being a maestro to it. And
well, I don't want to say, I mean, worship piano, because I'm more of a guitar player. I need to say that I feel more comfortable on guitar, but with worship piano, I thought it was always about underscoring, being sensitive and tasteful but not necessarily. I didn't need to have the dexterity that maybe a different genre was. I could hold it down with some pads, but I did have the experience as a songwriter and as a worship leader and as someone who was in a band for so long. It was natural for me to be able to communicate with the band and do a lot of MD things.
And maybe people don't know who are listening, like MD is music director. You have a microphone in front of you, but you have a pedal switch where you can switch from singing to talking
Correct.
to the band in their ears. That's called the talk back, and you'll hear
only the band hears it.
And you're saying, go back to the bridge, let's do the chorus again, and calling that kind of shots. It's where the band can pivot quickly. Some people might not realize there's a lot going on when you listen to a band lead worship.
Yep. And I like to say too, like to me, an MD, what's the most fun about that role is kind of a union in the spirit that happens particularly with worship leading, where it's everyone is starting to sense the same thing, and then the MD can come in and kind of just affirm it, and it's yes, we're going there. Let's go. It's a really beautiful thing. Yeah,
kind of like being a little bit of an air traffic controller too, because you have to kind of be aware of where we're at with time.
Yeah,
someone coming up to give an announcement, like swelling into that or going back into this, and
it's better to be able to just be in the spirit together than sometimes the MD is assuming the role of reminding the band what chords we're supposed to be playing. And, that's not a fun thing.
Both can be helpful, I imagine.
They are helpful, but to your metaphor, I don't want to be teaching the guy how to pilot the plane. I just want to be that other person that's helping, that second voice, making sure that, I've got the panoramic view.
Very good. Very good. And that is a skill, right? I mean, that's what would you say are some best practices or best hard won pieces of wisdom for someone who is inspiring MD?
Well, I also have to say that I haven't done that in like half a decade.
Sure. But you now you're on the other end of it, right? You get to be around it a lot.
Not just as an MD, but in general, I think coming prepared is so important. It actually opens things up. I think there's like an odd misconception with a lot of artists or just musicians. There's something cool. There's like a quasi cool thing about like not being prepared. And I don't know why that is, but it's like an immature way to like buck the system or something. I don't know. Or just wing it. And I've been through all of that. I remember that version of Sean too. But man, when you come prepared, you're giving unto the Lord your real heart, your full heart. And I think it actually opens your hands up for the Spirit to do something with you. So that's a big thing.
That's so like crosses over to preaching too, I think, because the same thing, it kind of can feel like I'm trusting the Holy Spirit if I don't prepare. Like I just want to like just see what God does. And in a strange way, you're less able to listen to the Holy Spirit when you're trying to come up with a message on the spot versus here's what I've prepared. And now, Lord, you can change it any moment and redirect my heart. Right.
Yep. I love that. And I try to have these checks and balances in me, even as someone who has a microphone in different ways than MD a lot of times, because that pendulum can swing too far the other direction too. And so a lot of times these days I'm trying to look at the time. Let's be respectful of how much time we have. You're one part of the body here. And so how do we honor that time? But then within that, let me actually build in some time for the Lord. So if I know I could have done 4 or 5 songs, like, well, let's just do 3, because I actually want to get to the edge of that and be going, okay, eyes up, the only way to fill these next 5 minutes is for me to be sensitive to the voice of the Spirit. Like I'm kind of in a season there where it's like, man, the last thing I want to do is lean too heavily on the muscle that I've developed, because I'm uncomfortable with the idea that I've become a professional at encountering God in spectacular settings. I don't want to get too comfortable with the repetition of that either. That's a whole other piece. But I want this to be a conversation. I want to be surprised. I want to be available. I want my ears to be open. Like all these things that actually make it about communion. It's crazy stuff.
That's very good. And it really is. A lot of times it's maybe not even the moments, it's the moments in between the moments and the moments before the moments.
Yes.
And those,
for sure.
And I think maybe insecure or just maybe a little bit when you're green, you rush. You kind of, I want to get all this in, fill it up, and not having the confidence to step back and let stuff breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
Now, how did you know the season for Bellarive was over? How did you know it was like, okay, now time to step into a new season?
I don't think we did. I think, like, I mean, I'm stepping into a new season right now too, and a lot of there's similar feelings. It's almost like sometimes the Lord has impressed something on you, but it's like growing in you. And you sense it long before you have the words for it. And then maybe once you do say out loud what needs to be said, you then start to recognize that this has been coming for you. I think in a lot of ways, the sweet time of Bellarive, it took its natural course. And we put out 2 records. I mean, I say that so easily now. It was brutal. I mean, when you get, we got signed, I guess, really, really young.
How old were you?
I think I was 22 or something. So all these feelings that you don't know what to do with when there's a group of people kind of affirming your art and your music and your songs and saying like, you got it, let's go. Those are complicated feelings, but they feel really empowering. I mean, the exact opposite happens when you get a call from the label and they say, like, we're done here. Like we're done. This was a fair run, but we're not going to continue. I mean, goodness,
that's disorienting, probably.
Yeah. And especially if your art has become too enmeshed with your identity, you take a real personal hit. And I don't even know, you have to sort of learn that stuff the hard way, I imagine. I don't know if any young person just has all of that sorted out. Because I still don't, but I think that process ended up being really helpful for me to learn how to maybe keep stuff in its rightful place, and not get it quite as tangled. But yeah, so there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of just practically, it felt time. I mean, seasons of life change. There's 5 or 6 people that are attached to this thing, and then it grows because people are getting married and people are having kids, and you have to just like kind of take a inventory of if the life of the band is keeping up with the life cycle of your own family. And those are hard things too. I mean, I guess the thing that I'm still grateful for is that it was never a bad blood thing.
Sure.
It was just,
there was no Yoko Ono involved.
Yeah. It was just time.
Yeah.
And
And did you
Man,
think,
yeah.
because you are signed now and you're doing music and you have a whole new kind of life in that way with worship and all you're doing with Six Steps.
Yeah.
But you had no idea at the time. So that ending, that probably felt like a full stop, like you're saying, like hitting a wall.
It was. And you never know. You never know what's on the other side. But there's a lot of beauty to be had for just knowing that, like, oftentimes we don't really know when we're stuck. And then even when you get unstuck, it can get harder before it gets better. But there's beauty to be had to just take a deep breath and, let these things that have been growing in you start to take shape, start to blossom. I just never would have thought that we would have been a part of the community that we're a part of now. It's beautiful stuff.
Did you have to go get a job? Like, were you like, I imagine, because you were telling me you show back up and you're writing songs with passion and you're serving in the kids' men, but like there probably had to be a transition season where you're like, okay, I got to provide for my family here. And
there was. I was trying to do things that, I taught music for some time. I was able to pick up odds and ends with songwriting and just like a little bit still under the Bellarive banner, but that was a different type of challenging because everybody else was gone. So like there was a good year where the main thing was over, but you kind of had some obligations. And man, showing up to that stuff, just like having to call some people and piece it together and play these songs and looking around and like none of my best friends are there anymore. And it was weird.
Were you tempted to go back to Florida and just cut your losses on that season, or what was the decision on staying in Atlanta like?
We didn't really attach it to Florida, and I think we had thought about it a little bit, but we loved. We my wife and I were always kind of the explorers, So a lot of why we had moved was just to kind of spread our wings. And so I think we were okay on that side, but there was definitely a year or so that we just didn't know,
Would that be, looking back, like a wilderness season for you a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I would say, it's funny. I just have to tell you because of where this conversation is going. We literally, we just moved. We just moved a couple months ago back to Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida now?
We just did.
I didn't know that. So you didn't even.
I know.
It's talked about it. Yeah.
Well, it's like I didn't know if we would talk about it or not. But
that's
funny.
Cool.
There are some interesting circular parallels to the story because, honestly, the things that pushed us to Atlanta in sort of the God stuff, I hadn't felt anything like that in my life until just recently when we really felt like we needed to go back. It just I don't know, the Lord kind of picking up the compass of your life and setting a new true north was wild, and it happened pretty quickly. And so we're in Orlando now. We've been here for just a few months, and we can't even. We're getting our feet under us, but I feel like I'm in a very similar open-handed place of being able to make some observations. Like, we have 2 kids now.
Okay, so you have Royal and Selah.
We have Royal and Selah, yeah.
Which is, well done. Those are some solid child Bible names.
Royal is my middle name. Okay. So it's like a family name. Yeah.
I did not know that.
And I remember Natalia, for the longest time, she was like, boy or girl, our first kid, first name is going to be Royal. And she is, she is a queen. This kid is fiery. She's a princess. She knows that. She knows how to own that name. And then Selah is like she's the sweetest, calming presence in the world. It's crazy.
It's so funny how you can raise two kids exactly the same, but they can just
they're
be
not the
so
same.
different.
Oh yeah, they're so right from the beginning. We joke about it all the time because Royal was like more or less a COVID baby. So there was a decent amount of time where we didn't have a lot of interaction with other parents with young kids. And we were like, I don't know. She sure feels like she's like a stubborn kid, a strong-willed. And then we got around other kids other parents with kids. And it was just totally confirmed. It's like, oh yeah, you guys have easy kids. and then we had Selah, and instantly it was like, oh, this is what it's like to not have to be on 130% 24/7 just to wrangle this kid.
Oh, yeah. You have a compliant child. You're like, this is an option?
Yeah, she's just sweet. I didn't know.
Well, I didn't know there's a compliant child. That's Daisy for us. Whereas Clover's kind of more the type A aggressive, and Daisy's
strong,
just
yeah. And it is like firstborn stuff sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's funny. It's not nurture. It's definitely nature. I mean, I'm sure that Howieisms have got to be a piece of it. But okay, so you mentioned "Worthy of Your Name." I love that song. I was just telling Jennie the other day when we were talking about having you on the podcast how I so fondly remember ending those passion worship nights after Louis and I did that little spoken word piece with going back into "You Are Worthy."
Go into it.
He and I would go, "You are worthy. You are worthy of your name." And then the words would start, going on the screen behind us, and it would just, you guys would take that song.
Yes.
It's a great song. Yeah. So that's really special that kind of, in a way, was used by God to kind of launch a new season of life for you.
It was. I mean, 100%. 100%. There's not a time that goes by that I lead that song that I'm not kind of feeling all of that. There's a lot of gratitude tied to that song. And I've just always loved how vertical it was. So.
Wow, it's kind of a little bit like, Bethel. Like Jacob would keep going back to Bethel for him, and whenever he'd go back there, he would feel that. It's like for me going back to the church I got saved in. Every time I'm there, you have so many emotions and memories. So it's a little bit like that for you.
It's like like an Ebenezer of sorts, And I love that. I love that stuff. Like I think God graces us with these type of kindnesses where they're reminders. Reminders. And a lot of people will sing that song and it will be something else for them. Yeah, but for me, it was like a bridge from one season to the next.
Beautiful. Yeah. I also really love Maranatha. I know so many people have loved and listened to that song. I just love the audacity of like a song that starts out by just like saying, "I'm not checking boxes." Like just from the drop, it's like
can we just say it?
And that's so characteristic to me of your worship leading. Like you always say stuff on mic that's like it's like the needle scratching on the record a little bit, in the sense of you break through the white noise of the rote of leading worship, and get our attention, and you use it not for yourself, but to get us straight to the business we're there for.
I love that. It's cool to hear you describe that. That's really important to me. Like I care a lot about words. I think that, I mean, you would relate to that. It's just that words are worlds, and they have the ability, and especially in my line, paired with melody, to really capture our imaginations. So I'm always trying to be careful to use them well, and in ways that it can be intentionally disruptive, because I think we lull ourselves to sleep way more than we realize. Even and especially in settings that we're all too comfortable with. I would hate for that to be in spiritual settings. It's like, man, just because it's always struck me as, and I understand that I have a lot of sympathy for this, but So it struck me growing up in music in other settings, um, we are really doing a lot for the people by putting the lyrics on a screen. Um, but the other side of that coin is that it can create a passivity, and I never. It was. I guess I'd say it was shocking to me because I grew up in just other circles musically. I mean, I grew up in church, but you go to another concert. I mean, people are singing so loud, and but they just know the song. You know what I mean? The song is a part of them. They would never need lyrics. And so, but I think obviously the beautiful side is we're trying to do something. We're trying to put our hands around as many people as possible, and we're trying to um, lift them forward. It's just if we're not careful, we can get a room singing as loud as anybody, and I'm not totally sure what's happening because you can just sing your favorite song with the lyrics on the screen that you've sung 1,000 times, but if we're not meaning what we're saying, um, I'm just concerned. So I'm always trying to find ways to, hey, remember, like, remember what's happening here. This is divine stuff.
That comes through. With
That's
what
cool.
you're saying, and I've always there's a little bit of me of a there's a novelty enough to where it does wake you up from just the next moment, in this, and I love that you do that intentionally.
That's cool.
Sean, your newest record, I want to make sure we get to talk about it.
Yes.
It's Basic Faith. This just released.
Yep.
Now, as people are listening to this, just came out last year. Tell us about these songs.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I guess I usually say a sentence to launch us into this because I like how it frames the songs, and I feel like all the songs are weaved together in this idea in many ways. So it's something like Jesus came to do more than get you into heaven. He came to get heaven into you.
That's a good sentence.
Like I think there's a lot of implications to that. I think faith, as far as it is a journey, I think has a lot to do with exploring that idea. And the songs are in many ways about that taking shape in me. I'm in a season of life where a lot of my friends are. It's like we've actually been walking with God for longer than we haven't been. And the way that I would think about faith now in many ways is different than I thought about it when I was 8 years old. There's so many things about that are beautiful. And then there's some things about that might not be. And a lot of the songs are me kind of tossing an idea at like a hypothetical conversation with myself now and my younger self and just sitting with it. And oftentimes it's funny, like when people get posed that question, like, what would you tell your younger self? It usually is about teaching your younger self something. But I feel like I'm finding so often that like the childlike faith of 8-year-old Sean has a lot to teach me.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. What do you need to learn from your younger self?
Yes, or, because I've just found that, at least for me, there are certain things we grow out of that maybe we shouldn't, like trust and like wonder. And as I've grown older, I think as it pertains to faith, I mean, I sure hope that I've grown in spirit and truth and some maturity, but I've also been able to recognize there's a lot of things I've overcomplicated. Um, there's a lot of things that I inadvertently took back into my hands, almost like without even knowing I was doing it. But then you just have to examine it and go, man, do I really think this stuff is better in my hands than in the Lord's,
That is so good.
And what is preventing that? Like, how did I get here, And so it explores that stuff, even in my line, I said it a little bit earlier, but this stuff kind of haunts me. Like, why is it that I've become a professional at, maybe encountering God in sensational spaces, but I feel like I have so much to learn about discovering God in my everyday life. especially since that's where I spend most of my time, you know. So I know what revival looks like in a room, in some respect. But what does revival look like as a husband? You know, as a father. Like, what does it mean to have 2 feet on the ground, making decisions that I don't know, just create hospitable kingdom life around me, and also, um, how do I write songs that invite God into every aspect of my life? Faith has to touch every part of my life, not just the spectacle, and not just the miraculous. You know, you have so much beautiful things to say about this, but like I ran into a scenario when my dad passed 2 years ago, um, where I really felt under resourced. You know, I was looking around for my community and my large community of art to like help give me some songs that maybe help narrate that experience or how to find God in that experience. And it was hard to find that stuff.
Did you write any? Did you find or did
we
you find
don't
any?
sing about it. Yeah. So the last song on the record,
Oh my gosh. What's it called?
it's called "Let It Take the Time It Takes."
Bro, I'm going to go listen to that and cry in the corner. You know, my dad went to heaven last year.
It's a lot. It's like it's poetic, so it's not on the nose. But
it's not. Dear Dad, you taught me to fish. But you're saying that was inspired by that journey?
Yeah, like how do you find God in liminal space?
Wow, bro.
Or when things don't go the way they should have. You know, and for me, it ended up being a reminder. A lot of it is like the story of Job. Like, it was a reminder that God is no stranger to this. And in fact, he made this beautiful thing. And then in 2 pages, it only took 3 pages for it all to go sideways. You know, we don't give enough credit to the Lord because he knows what it means to have to take the long path. And what does that mean for me? When I'm walking through things I didn't plan or didn't see coming, it's a cool thing. It's a cool song, honestly.
I can't wait to listen to it. I can't wait. Let It Take the Time That It Takes ministers to me, even just saying the words. So
yes, yeah.
I can't wait to listen to the track. I know you have to get going and we're going to let you get on your way, but I do have to ask, because I just feel like I don't know this. When you're not leading music, when you're not doing, you know, your job and all that, what do you do for fun? Do you have hobbies? And now that you're in Florida, is it going to be like, are you going to go to SeaWorld regularly? Like, what is it going to be?
I will tell you. Okay, so growing up in Florida, we love the ocean. We haven't been back because it's been a full-time job just trying to get a new license. I don't understand.
Someone needs to privatize that and make it like an app. It's just ridiculous.
It is. But I would say, some other dreams that don't have to do with music is I'd like to be a lot more proficient at surfing than I currently am. My dad was an awesome surfer. So I'd love to kind of pick up that hobby again. And I'd like to be really good at tennis. Like everybody's into golf or pickleball these days. And I'm like, come on, let's play some tennis.
You bring me great joy in saying those words.
Let's play that.
Those words that you just spoke, bless my heart. Okay, I'm going to come, next time I'm in Orlando, I'm going to hit you up. We're going to play some tennis.
We're going to do it. Okay, good.
Does Natalia play too?
So we don't play. We want to play.
You aspire to play.
Yes, there we go. It will happen.
But did you play as a kid tennis?
My dad did. So yeah, like I know how understand.
You can hit the ball.
Yes, it's the same with surfing. Like I know how to paddle out and not look like an idiot.
Full kook.
But I wouldn't call myself a surfer knowing my dad. It's like I want to get to that point.
I would be the same way surfing. Like I can paddle out, duck dive. Yeah. I'm better on a longboard. Like I can catch waves, but like that's about it. That's all I got.
Yeah. But yeah.
So you're in the right place for both those things. Florida, you can play
right.
329 days out of the year outdoors.
It kind of is. It's dreamy. And I mean, we got a pool.
Well,
so I'm in the water. Feels good.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I'm so glad to know I have another tennis playing friend.
Wannabe.
Doesn't matter. You aspire. That's all it takes. All it takes is intention, and you can make it a reality. Sean, I hope everyone will go listen to Basic Faith, or just put you in on Spotify and shuffle through your stuff. You have so many great songs. I mean, bigger than I thought.
Thank you.
So many great songs. All the Passion ones. You're on so many of those records, and then I'm sure new ones coming out soon, right? You're working.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this year's going to be great. It's cool to have two passes at the conference, and it's just a life-changing thing. Always will be. And moving here, it's like a new rhythm. I miss everybody. It'll be good to be around everybody for like an intense
the homecoming week of coming in.
Yeah.
You should join the Passion Run Club. Have you thought about that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I have bad knees, okay, honestly. But also, I would say that as an excuse because I hate running.
I gotcha. Well, it'll help your surfing and your tennis to get some cardio.
That is true.
That's so funny. Okay, well, Sean Curran, thanks for your time today. Thanks for your beautiful heart. Thanks for having big eyes always when talking about God. I hope that never changes.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by levilusko.com and jennielusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko out.